Listeners are advised the following program contains material which includes discussions of sexual violence, trauma, and suicide. Please be advised to show caution before proceeding. Listeners are advised that if any of the material discussed on this program has caused concerns, they are welcome to contact the National Sexual Abuse and Redress Support Service, 1800 211 028, or Lifeline, 131 114. The Kids Helpline, 1800 55 1800 for people aged between 5 and 25, or 1800-RESPECT. That's 1800 737 732. Well, g'day, listeners, and welcome to the Conditional Release program. We've got a special guest with us today. Doing an interview with me is Beck Rogers. Now, Beck Rogers, I got to know over the last few months. She and I wrote a story for the Australian, the Weekend Australian magazine, about basically some of the ordeals through her life. And she's a person of immense courage. I've discovered that she's a person with the courage to endure initially, and then for many, many years, and then to have the courage to put a stop to it. G'day, Beck. How are you today?
G'day, Peter. I'm really good, thank you. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm good. And thanks for joining us. You know, you and I have got to know each other pretty well over the last few months in telling your story. And it's a delight to have you on the Conditional Release program.
Oh, thank you for having me.
All right, tell us a little bit about you, about yourself. Tell us a little bit about your life.
I am 41. I am a wife, and I've got a son, and I've recently just got a new puppy named Rufus.
I have seen Rufus. He's a very good boy.
Yeah,
well, he might not always
today.
be perfect. But he's a beautiful golden lab pup. Looks to be about 7 or 8 months old.
He's 9 weeks old today.
Oh dear, I was way off. You had him in your arms last week, I saw. So he'll look after you.
He will.
He'll be your companion, and you'll be his special person. I think that's the way it's going already, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yep. Got me twisted around his little tail.
Good luck with Rufus. Look, the legal system describes you as a victim. Do you consider yourself a victim?
No. I actually really struggled when I had to do my victim impact statement. I really, really took that to heart because I've never seen myself as a victim. I've always said that I'm a survivor. And at the end of my victim impact statement, I actually finish it with, though in the eyes of the court, I'm a victim, in my heart, I'm a survivor.
Yes, you've survived a great deal. Just to provide some context very briefly for our listeners, you had to endure abuse, assaults, and manipulation at the hands of your father that lasted nearly 4 decades, most of your life.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah. What was your first memory?
Look, my first memory of childhood is being in the bath with my father inappropriately touching me.
And how old would you have been then?
I would have been 3 years old.
So you were 3. So as far as you can tell, the abuse began at that time, possibly earlier.
Yeah.
And it ended only when you decided to put a stop to it.
That's right, yeah.
And
39.
When you were 39. So after you've endured this for 36 years, and then we want to tell a story about how you put a stop to it, and you want to tell that story because you want others who might be in similar situations to come forward, don't you?
Absolutely. That's really important to me.
Yes, that's why we first got to meet, because you really wanted to tell your story to other people. We'll go through a bit on the background to what is known as interfamilial sexual abuse. But what was it like for you growing up with this abuse going on?
To be honest, I don't really have many happy childhood memories. things were always hard. My father, apart from the abuse, there was rarely food in the cupboards. My sister and I still to this day do not eat much fruit because we never had that growing up.
Yeah.
He worked 3 jobs, so you would have thought that we would have had a really good, comfy lifestyle, but he was always just spending all that money on himself. So he's always been very selfish, and things were really hard for us.
Yes, it's really. I was really intrigued by that when you first told me that you and your sister, and she's your junior by I think 5 years.
Yeah, that's right.
Just to clarify, she didn't suffer any sexual abuse, but she did suffer physical and verbal abuse at the hands of your father, didn't she?
That's right. Yeah.
So never enough money in the family home, and you had to endure all those sorts of hardships, and then the abuse. Let's move on, because that abuse went on, as we've discussed, for 36 years. Tell me when the moment came to you when you decided that you just could not endure this any longer.
Well, that night, my father had invited Will, my husband, and I over for dinner. And when we were at the dinner table, he decided to hit us with the question of, I'm wondering if you guys will help take over the loan repayments of my home loan. And we sort of were a little bit shocked. Well, Will more shocked than me. He'd really been telling us how hard he was doing it, and with the interest rates, he'd have to live on baked beans, really pulling at our heartstrings there. And yeah, then Will said yes, and I ran to the bathroom and had to be physically sick because I just knew at that point, wow, this man is just going to any length possible to take me, to have me in full control.
Yeah.
And now it's not just affecting me, it's affecting my family. So enough is enough.
Yes, and this is a process of manipulation. We might call it sort of coercive control, which is the sort of, the correct term, not the buzzword, but the correct term around controlling partners in relationships often. But this is, you said there were very little money in the family home. As you grew up as a teenager and into your adulthood, you were paying your father's electricity bills, weren't you? You were paying.
Absolutely.
And when you'd meet for a meal, you at a restaurant or cafe, you'd pay the bill.
Absolutely, every time.
And this is just his way of controlling you beyond the physical in this sort of financial way that you would have to pay his way. And this was a dinner you had. He invited you over to, that was in February of 2023. He had you over there. This was kind of this is the last straw in terms of that financial manipulation, that sort of coercion.
That's right.
But you didn't at that stage decide you were going to go to the police.
No.
You went to a darker place than that.
I really did. The darkest of the dark, to be honest. And I didn't see any other way out. So I had it all planned. I was going to go to his house and confront him about the abuse over the years. And, I was going to slip my wrist in front of him just so that he could actually feel what he had been doing to me my entire life.
And that that was basically preoccupying you for really the next couple of months after that dinner. But there was a moment, wasn't there, that you decided there was another way?
That's right, and that was thanks to a family member who had been very close with my father, so she knew him very well, and she could just tell that something wasn't right when she was watching us together. And we went out one night and she just asked me, "Is it your father who is your abuser?" And I'd never been asked the question before, and I said nothing at first. All I could do was cry, and that was answer enough.
Yeah, so she's picked up something from your body language, I gather, at that time, that you were going through a sort of almost crippling sort of aversion to your father.
Absolutely.
And so she picked up something in the body language there. And in that conversation that you had with her after she asked you that question, is your father your abuser? Between the two of you, you determined that there was another way, and that was to report, to go to police and report.
That's right.
So it wasn't the first. I mean, the first step wasn't to walk through the doors of a police station or a socket in Victoria, but of course you had to tell your husband of 15 years, and you had to tell your son, who was on the verge of adulthood at the time.
That's right.
Must have been incredibly tough.
Oh, it was so tough. I was a lot more scared of telling them than going to the police at all. You know, I had kept this secret our entire relationship. It was almost like I'd lived a double life. And my father had convinced me that if I ever told him, he'd leave me. And I believed it.
And we're going to talk a bit about grooming later on, but that's part of this grooming process that he had undertaken with you, particularly as a young adult and a teenager and into your adulthood. If you tell anybody, your life will be destroyed, your husband will leave you, your family unit, the family unit that you hold dear, will be gone, and that was the great threat.
Absolutely, and boy, did it work.
But it didn't pan out that way, did it? All those terrible threats. Because one evening, I think it's of March or April of 2023, you sat down with your husband, Will, and you told him this terrible secret.
I did. That's probably, honestly, the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I expected that he was going to kick me out on the spot, you know. There was a lot of tears on my behalf, but although he was obviously hurt and angry, and then he went outside and he had about 10 cigarettes, when he came inside, he just came and he hugged me and he just said, I'm going to be by your side and I'm going to help you through the entire process. Whatever you want, we're going to do it together. I'm by your side. I love you. And then he told me about Socket.
That's right. Yeah, that was his first. I mean, it must be said that Will is an extraordinary fellow. He's helped you. He's helped you through that period. He got you through the gravest fear you can have.
Yep.
That everything that you held dear would be gone. He kicked that nonsense away, and then in a more practical way, you know, he was did some deep dives on the internet, and he discovered that the recommendation from Victoria Police was not to go and report cases of sexual assault to police stations, because they're generally general duties officers and they're not terribly capable in dealing with these things, but to go to a socket. And these sockets were established I think it was prior to the Royal Commission, actually. The socket stands for Sexual Offences and Child Abuse Investigations Teams.
Yeah, that's right.
And one thing we haven't established, but you live in the southeast of Melbourne, and there is a socket in Frankston.
There is, yeah.
And so I guess you've knocked over the first hurdle, the terrible threat that your life and everything that you held dear would be gone. That dissipated. I presume also that you had to tell your son before you went to police, and that would have been difficult as well. But your family has got behind you, and then the next step is probably the hardest of them all, but you tell me, just crossing the threshold to enter a socket. It may not be a police station, but it's filled with police.
Scary.
And it's a big scary step to take. Tell me what it was like just to walk into the socket.
Oh, I was absolutely shaking like a leaf when I first got in there. I had my sister with me, my sister-in-law, and I think she basically had to hold me up while we were actually crossing into the first room. And then we were met by a detective, and he was pretty scary.
Yeah.
And then I had to go into the office with him and a social worker by myself. And I thought, oh my God, what am I doing here? What am I doing?
Interview room, big burly copper on the other side of the table. And you're going through what's called a preliminary interview, and there's an assessment being made, isn't there, by the police to determine whether you're a genuine or not.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And they're very good at scaring you without meaning to, which is obviously what they need to do because you don't want to be there making false accusations, that's for sure. It was hard enough making real ones.
You were told that, weren't you? You were told that you would be charged if you were making a false accusation. So it's a pretty tough environment.
It is. It is.
How long did that interview take?
Oh, it would have gone for about half an hour. Maybe a bit less, but in that time, they certainly knew that I wasn't making this up.
So, as that process wore on, you got the feeling that you were being taken seriously.
Absolutely, yeah. The scary police officer was very friendly by the end, and gave me the business card and said, "You'll be hearing from a detective that will take over your case." So he knew that it was real. And just being believed was huge.
So when you walked out of the socket, you've that weight was to some degree lifted off you?
Absolutely, yeah. The scariest part of leaving was, oh God, now I've got to try and not see my father, That was hard. So
what was the advice given to you about that?
He gave us permission to lie. He said,
that's
I don't care what you have to do. I know you're not a liar, but I'm giving you permission. You lie. You don't see him. You do not allow yourself to be left alone with this monster. So we took off to Noosa.
Very nice.
Yeah.
But not long after, you'd been given a business card of the one and only Kathy Squire, detective, senior constable, and she was the lead detective in this investigation. Tell me a little bit about Kathy, your first meet with her, and all the times you've spent with her. She became a constant companion with you, walking you through this sort of criminal justice process.
Absolutely. I thank my lucky stars every single day for Detective Kathy Squire. I'm lucky enough now to call her a friend, but at the start, she was really scary also. But
she's a very experienced investigator.
She is
in sexual assault matters, isn't she? Over
Absolutely.
20 years.
Yeah. Look, I couldn't have asked for better in any way. She has held my hand through the entire process, and I'm so glad that she's on my side is all that I have to say. I'm so glad that I wasn't on the other side of the table. She's a bulldog.
Yeah. And look, so there's a formal process, of course. You've made accusations, and that they needed to be they needed to have form, and the form comes in a statement.
Absolutely.
And so that statement would be incredibly detailed, and would detail the abuse that you suffered at the hands of your father.
It sure did. So that took 4 separate sittings, and they were around, between 6 to 8 hours long. I mean, we did have a break here and there as well, but boy, is it grueling. You've got to go into so much detail, and I don't know, I don't think that I was really expecting to have to go into as much detail as I did. It was really like reliving the entire thing all over again. But we got there.
We got there. So you didn't definitely get there. So the reason for the detail is that the police will be looking for matters that will corroborate your story, that we're looking for evidence, be it documentary, be it anecdotal, whatever it is. They will be looking for something to support what you're saying every time. So that's why you've got a detailed statement. Do you remember how many pages the statement was?
It was just over 60 pages in length.
And there's no little distractions. I mean, this is detailed allegations of sexual abuse.
That's right. Yeah.
And so this is around May of 2023. This is not so long ago. This is just a little over 2 years ago. And armed with your statement and your allegations, there was a search conducted of your father's house. I believe that was July 30, 2023. Did you have any knowledge of that before it happened?
Kathy did give me the heads up, yes.
You hadn't seen your father at all since the first time you'd walked into the socket?
That's right. I'd managed to stay away from him since April.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's hard.
There was a lot of COVID going around.
Yeah. I see. Very good. Yes, I
exactly.
like that.
Yes.
And so the search warrant discovered a number of things. Your father had always told you that in the event where he, had an accident or died, that you were to go and destroy the hard drive of his computer?
Yeah, that's right. He had a couple of different hard drives, and he'd say, you make sure that you run these over 3 times. Make sure nobody can ever access what's on them.
So police have obtained those and other evidence at the home.
Yep.
And that was it. He was arrested, I believe, that day on July 30th, 2023.
That's right. Yep.
And you hadn't seen him for a couple of months, but he was bailed. I think he spent a night in the lockup, but he was
did.
bailed either that day or the following day.
Yeah, he was. Yep. I was shattered.
How did that make you feel? I mean, this is the guy who's tormented you for 36 years, possibly more, and you've made detailed allegations that have been supported by the execution of a search warrant, and he's charged with serious offences, and a magistrate, bail magistrate, whoever it was, has kicked him back out in the street. I mean, it must be... We're trying to encourage people to come forward, but that must have been a real hiccup or a real hurdle for you to get around, and there must have been a genuine fear that he would make contact.
Absolutely. I mean, first I was angry, but then I was scared. I was so scared that he was going to come for me, because one of the things he'd also said was, if anything happens to me, I'm taking you with me. He was obsessed to that point. And I thought, oh my God, now he's going to come and kill me, and then he's going to kill himself.
But he played the victim, didn't he?
Absolutely.
There were, I believe, Kathy, Detective Squire, had obtained, court orders that he not be allowed to contact you.
That's right.
And I think when those applications were made, your father said that, I'm very worried that Will, your husband, would extract some frontier justice from him. He actually had the temerity to play the victim at that stage.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that bail period, that went on for a long time, almost a year, didn't it?
It did, yeah. Yeah.
It must have been very, very troubling
it was.
Throughout. But no contact was made.
No.
I believe also that your father had a knife collection, might have been part of his tool kit or something, but the police demanded, they didn't actually seize them from the home, but they demanded that he hand those in.
He did.
So yeah. I guess there was a feeling, he must have had a feeling that he was being fairly closely monitored.
Yeah, absolutely. He had very strict bail conditions, but yeah, they didn't make me feel very safe.
No.
No.
As we go on, I think our listeners will discover that bail was clearly an error in justice, but nevertheless, for a year or so, you had to endure the prospect of him making contact, and after all his threats, it would not have been a very pleasant exercise.
No, not at all. On either side. I don't know what I would have done if I had have seen him at that point either, to be honest.
He was charged with many, many offences at that time. I mean, this is the bit that I find very hard to believe, that he's given bail after being charged with very, very serious offences, multiple counts. I think it was something like 90 charges in total. 60, I do apologise.
No, that's all right.
60 charges in total that included, and we'll just spell them out, that included rape and incest.
That's right, yeah.
And he's kicked out. So we have to go for a kicked out on the street. So we have to go all the way to May 2024, almost a year or 10 months at least since he was formally charged. And there was a scheduled committal hearing in the Melbourne Magistrates Court, but it doesn't go ahead. And you receive a phone call the night before.
That's right, yeah.
Tell me about that call.
So the OPP called me, and they had given me the heads up that morning when I'd met with them that a plea bargain might be on the table, but they didn't tell me what it would entail. But yeah, just before, I think 5 o'clock, the night before the committal hearing was supposed to happen, I get a phone call and they've offered me the plea deal. My father's willing to plead guilty to 30 charges.
So they'd halved the number of offences. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, halved
the number of charges.
Yeah, that was a bitter pill to swallow at the time, and I did feel a little bit pushed into it. But at the same time, with my health issues and knowing that I didn't have to go to court, I ended up taking the deal. It wasn't easy.
Was it something that was offered to you, or was it presented to you as a fait accompli?
Yeah, it wasn't really an offer.
Yeah. This might be another thing that a lot of people who have had no interactions with the criminal justice system will find, that a plea bargain is essentially a deal. In fact, if you ask prosecutors, they'll tell you that plea bargaining doesn't go on, that they simply make arrangements between defence counsel and OP and the prosecutors. And so half of the charges are gone, wiped out. It's done essentially to save money, save resources and money to the court. And so both sides are willing to undertake these things. When we're talking both sides, not you, but the prosecutor and the defence. The defence is probably advising your father that he is that there is no way he would survive a trial, that he would be found guilty.
Yeah.
And so let's negotiate our way through it. So that is pretty damning or really challenging for you too, because you've gone through this exhausting exercise of spilling out all of these horrors onto the page, and half of them have been ignored.
That's right, yeah. But I was told by the lawyer and by Kathy as well that it wasn't going to affect the big hit that he got by the judge in the end. And I believed them. I know that they did care about me. So I did feel that it was all right to take the deal. But at the time, it was horrible. I didn't want to take it. I wanted to go to that committal hearing.
Your father's still on bail from this period onwards. So this is
That's
May
right.
in 2024. We get to a plea hearing in the Melbourne County Court in November 2024. Is he still out on bail during that time?
He was, yeah. Yep. He just kept adjourning.
So he's essentially not in a courtroom, but he has essentially indicated that he's pleading guilty to horrific offences, and he's still walking the streets for another 6 months.
That's right. Yep.
Well, look, we're trying to get people to come forward, and perhaps we should move on, because there is some light at the tunnel appearing. In November 2024, at this plea hearing, you were given the opportunity to deliver your victim impact statement. Tell me about how you prepared to do that, and and how you delivered it.
Okay, well, it took a long time to find a way to get the words out. So my sister-in-law ended up taking me to her place, and she has a little sort of self-contained unit. And she said, "Okay, Beck, you're going to go in there. I'm going to give you whatever food you want, whatever drinks you want, and you're just going to sit there until you've written this bloody thing." So that's what I did. I spent about 4 hours, and I didn't come out until I was done.
And how long was it? Do you remember how many words? Do you remember how many pages it took up?
It was 4 full pages.
Right.
Yeah, so it was quite decent.
Do you have that in front of you? Or would you permit me to read a section of it?
Yeah, go for it. Absolutely.
So this is you in the Melbourne County Court at a plea hearing for your father, who's tormented you for 36 years. And he's in the dock, and you look him square in the eye. Is that right? You look him in the eye.
I did. I finally got to do that.
And what did he? How did he respond? I'll read the VIS in a moment. But how did he respond? Did he bow his head? Did he stare back?
Yeah, he gave me a filthy, filthy look. It was the same thing that he'd done to anybody that bothered to look at him that day.
Tough. But let me just read this. This is the ultimate section of your victim impact statement. I have carried the weight of my situation and carried emotional baggage that I refuse to carry around any longer. I am handing it over to you now, Father. You get to feel the weight and have the burden of shame. You can be humiliated now. You can finally pay for what you have done. You have ruined the last 41 years of my life, inflicting unimaginable pain and suffering. I have no father. Exposing you is the beginning of my new life. I am going to not only survive, but I am going to live life and be truly happy, surrounded by all the people that you tried to convince me would run away. I am not alone, but you will be. I will take my past and draw strength, resilience, and make every moment count. I am finally free of shame, of embarrassment, and of manipulation, but mostly I am free of you, and that is the greatest thing that I have ever achieved. So now, although I am seen as a victim in the court, in my heart and in the eyes of all whom I care about, I am a survivor. Very
Absolutely.
powerful. Very powerful.
Yeah.
And you were given sort of special dispensation by the court. And normally, court procedures as they are, you would stand. You
That's
might
right.
even deliver that in the witness box. That's not necessarily the case with VISs, but you were allowed. We'll get back to your health ongoing. We'll get to your health shortly, but you were allowed to deliver your victim impact statement seated with Will, your husband, at your side.
That's right.
And that must have given you, some comfort that you had. Those people you refer to in the victim impact statement, those people you loved and cared about, were there.
Yeah.
But also, your father was on the end of this withering spray. I mean,
that's right.
The judge would deliver perhaps another withering spray in sentencing sometime later, but this would have resonated in the court, and it would have resonated with the judge.
It certainly did. I was told by many people that were there that there wasn't a dry eye in the court after I read that. Even the judge was wiping at her eyes.
It is extremely powerful. And at that stage, your father is led away into prison. He's yet to be sentenced, but as he had pleaded guilty, and as there was a obvious expectation that he would serve a custodial sentence, he's led away. How did that make you feel, seeing him with the judge's words, "Take the prisoner away"?
Yeah, I was a ball of emotion. At first, I was thrilled. I was free. It was fantastic. But then, it hit me as well. Like, I no longer have a father, and it was sad. But then I was happy again pretty darn quickly, I can tell you that.
So we are running the gamut of emotions, isn't it? It's all happening very quickly all of a sudden after 36 years.
Yeah, and everything I'd been through was worth it for that moment.
3 months later, on February 19, 2025, it's time for your father's sentencing. And you were present, and Will was present, and all those people that he said would leave you were present.
Yep.
Kathy Squire was present, and obviously the judge was present, and I believe that the judge referred to your remarks in your victim impact statement in sentencing.
She certainly did, yeah. A lot of my victim impact statement is mentioned all through her remarks. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that I had a little bit to do with the sentencing with my words of how it had affected me. So I'm pretty proud of that.
Yeah, good stuff. And then it is, he would have been told to stand, and then the sentence would be delivered. So the sentencing, people often have these sort of TV courtroom views of how things work, that the sentencing takes about 30 seconds, but it takes a lot longer than that. So I presume
4 hours.
4 hours of sentencing remarks from the judge, and then the sentence is handed down. Tell me about that moment.
Oh, wow. Well, for some reason, I was obviously not with the program, but I heard 11 years and I thought, oh, yeah, well, that's all right. I sort of thought as long as it's over 7 years, I don't know why I had 7 years in my head, but I thought if it's over 7 years, I'll take it. That's a win. But when I got out of the courtroom, everyone's waiting for me and cheering and, oh, how's that? 21 years. How good is that? And I went, what? 21 years? Yeah, 21 years and 8 months. How good is that? I was pretty impressed.
21 years. 21 years and 5 months in prison with a non-parole period of 14 years and 8 months.
Yeah.
And that's the wash-up. This is the part that we do want to talk to people about who may be suffering similar circumstances, suffering sexual abuse at the hands of a family member or some other member of the community. This is the moment that you will wait for. This is the moment that makes it all worth it.
Absolutely.
And so that was just, Beck, it's incredible. That was February 19 this year. It's now, as we record this, on the 8th of July. How do you feel now about the whole process?
I feel that if I had the choice to do it all over again, I'd do it time and time again. It was so worth it. And I encourage anybody else that is thinking about it, do it. Do it.
As painful as it is, and I think you've been able to describe very effectively that it is not an easy process.
No way.
Emotionally very, very tiring, long periods of time, and through this, we might talk about your health just briefly. So to give our listeners some context, you have a neurological disorder that is almost certainly trauma related.
Yeah.
And that you suffer from seizures.
I do, yeah.
It troubled me greatly, and we've had this conversation, that while you were telling me your story for the article that we both wrote, that you were suffering more seizures. And it troubles me again that while we record this interview, that it might be, again, exacerbating this condition. But you've been prepared to just motor on through it. And every time I sort of meekly offered can we, are you okay? Are you going to, you just say, no, let's keep going. Come on.
Absolutely.
Let's keep going.
Harden up.
Harden up. So this is a neurological condition. I believe that you're still seeking treatment.
Yes.
Through that process, from reporting, walking through the socket on the very first time, and then preparing a statement over 4 long occasions, sometimes as long as 8 hours, you did suffer. Your health did suffer. You suffered more seizures than you normally would. I'm right about that, aren't I?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But you had the courage to persist and persevere. And in the end, you got the result. Tell me, how's your health these days?
Look, I still have the seizures, but they're different now. There's going to be a little bit of work to go through still. I mean, this trauma was my entire life, basically.
Yeah.
So I can't expect that it's just going to be fixed now that, he's in jail. But I'm working on it and I will get there. And yeah, like I said, I don't care how many seizures I have. It was worth it. And I'd have them all over again.
I really hope that today's interview, I do know that preparing the article in the Week in Australia magazine did lead to more seizures. We hope that the interview today doesn't, but your view is soldier on, harden up.
Yep.
And move
That's
on.
It.
So I want to talk to you about grooming. When we talked about the article,
yep.
I was concerned that some people would not understand how the abuse could persist into your adulthood. And we sought to explain that. I got comment from Kathy Squire. I got comment from other people who are experienced in counselling sexual abuse victims. But this is grooming of extraordinary depth, that this man, your abuser, in fact, was your father. And I suspect there would have been times in your life from your childhood well into your adulthood where you would have hoped that he would have become your father and not your abuser.
Absolutely. Yeah. I just kept thinking one day he's just going to stop doing that and I'm just going to have the fun dad, because he wasn't always an asshole. That's the hardest part, probably.
So I remember talking to Kathy, Detective Squire, about this, and she said that when she first saw you at Frankston Socket, she said immediately she could tell how well your father had groomed you, and that you were prepared, and perhaps even just in your most recent answer, you're still offering a little bit of defence for him.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
And that's because this character has controlled you, manipulated you for almost your entire life.
That's right, yeah.
So I think a lot of people may not understand that.
Yeah.
When we talk about grooming, when did you first hear the term grooming and understand what it meant?
Probably when I was around 16, I probably would have heard the term grooming, but I really didn't pay that much attention to it because I was so far in at being controlled that I didn't want to know about it. I knew that what was going on at that stage was wrong, but I didn't know how to stop it. And I just thought it's just easier to go along with it and get it over with because I paid for it when I didn't do what I was told.
And the other thing that I wanted to explore is that other people would have no idea that this was going on. Obviously, your mother was in the background, and we might just go on to explain that your mother walked into your bedroom when you were, I think, 11,
yeah,
and found your father in bed with you. Now, we're not suggesting that she had seen any sexual activity, but we are saying that she became uneasy about that, and she was so uneasy that she evicted him from the family home. So your father went and lived with his parents, and He insisted on visitation rights.
Yep.
In fact, that might have been actually established by the court. I don't know, but certainly the family courts will say, well, we insist as a baseline that you go and visit your estranged once a fortnight.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's how it went. And the abuse actually accelerated after he left the family home, didn't he? Didn't it?
Oh, sure did, yeah, because nobody that knew what had happened lived there. So he would just make sure that my nan and granddad, his parents, were busy with my little sister, and then off he'd take me wherever he wanted and do whatever he wanted.
And the person who actually put us together is sort of well known to the conditional release program, known as Sandy. She's one of the two brilliant people who do the Tinfoil Tales podcast. That Sandy contacted me and then I contacted you, and this is how we got to know each other. But Sandy had been a childhood friend of yours.
Yeah.
Or you'd gone to the same schools, gone to the same secondary school.
Yep.
And she told me a story. We didn't put this in the magazine, but I just found it really fascinating that she saw you with your father and he was holding your hand, and she looked at this with a sort of envy because she told me that she had an emotionally distant relationship with her own father. And so this is how it's hidden, the abuse is hidden in plain sight.
That's right, exactly.
So no one had any idea, and I think you actually went on to live with Sandy briefly as when you were both, I guess, in your late teens.
Yep.
Set up a unit or a flat somewhere and shared house. So I think it was fairly brief, but again, Sandy had absolutely no knowledge, and it's sort of one of her regrets. She said, "I wish we had have stayed together in that place, in that flat, in that unit, because maybe then." And she said, just like you said, but I think Beck was too far gone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Entwined, just completely manipulated from childhood, from basically early childhood, all the way to your 30s. Kathy Squire told me that she'd never really heard of a case like it. But surely there are others, aren't there, Beck? You imagine that there must be others.
For sure, yep.
Perhaps not to the degree or the severity. And I'll just run through the statistics. The statistics are a little bit murky because of reporting.
Exactly.
These crimes won't get often reported. But the Australian Bureau of Statistics says that child sex offending, this is 2023 figures, showed 10% of Australians, male and female, but predominantly female, have suffered sexual abuse at the hands of a family member. That's 1 in 10.
Yeah, it's disgraceful.
We had a Royal Commission into institutional child sexual abuse, but that's only 2%. Have experienced abuse within an institutional setting, a school, a sporting association, church, whatever it is, sporting or cultural institution. But clearly we have a bigger problem than that with familial or interfamilial child sexual abuse.
Absolutely, yep.
And that's why we're talking now, aren't we, Beck?
That's right, exactly. Yeah, let's lift the lid.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
And you're here to say that, yes, it will be tough.
Absolutely. You're in for the ride of your life, and not in the best way.
No. And of course, I guess you could say that you were fortunate in a way that your father pleaded guilty, and we've gone through the circumstances there. I don't think for a moment that your father threw his hands up and said, yes, I've been I regret what I have done. I don't think there was any sense of regret or remorse, you tell me.
No way. No.
It was just about reducing his sentence, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah. Yeah.
But while you had, I guess, that benefit, I mean, you weren't subject to cross-examination in the courtroom or anything like that. And those things can happen, of course, to victims. And it is a fairly grueling thing. What would you say the court regards you as a victim, and in a way it regards you as a witness to the crime, doesn't it?
That's right, yeah. Yep.
So what would you say if I said to you, if you were, and I am, this is hypothetical, please bear with me, that if you were required to give evidence in a courtroom, and then as a witness, you wouldn't be allowed to see the proceedings beforehand. You could sit in the gallery and watch them afterwards. This is how victims are treated. And we're not trying to discourage people, but what we're trying to suggest is that there needs to be a better way. I would think at a minimum, one of those reforms would be that victims, survivors, be legally represented in court. Because there's a prosecutor. There's a prosecutor and there's a defence. And the prosecutor has different objectives to you. We've already sort of established that. And I just think that's one of the reforms that should be looked at, particularly around sexual assault cases, that victims actually have representation in court.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that is one thing that we can look at, and perhaps that would diminish some of the awful things that sometimes occur in cross-examination. Have you found happiness now? We're just 5 months away from ending a traumatic, almost lifelong period for you. Are you starting to find some happiness in your life?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm blessed to have the best husband in the entire universe. My son is amazing. My family is amazing. And now I've got a new baby dog. So, what could be better?
It is one of those things too, that everything your father said did not come true. That your family unit, Will, and your son, who's I think now 19, they were locked in behind you.
That's right, exactly.
And I think that's another thing to learn, for people to learn. We may not all be victims, but when someone comes forward from the family unit and says, this happened to me, you get behind them.
That's right, exactly, because that is so imperative to that victim. It makes all the difference.
It's about being heard, and it's about being believed, isn't it?
That's right, exactly.
And that is the crucial thing. Tell me, what do you think? Well, firstly, has your father made any attempt to contact you?
No, not at all.
What would you do? And I'm throwing this now open to our listeners now, because as I said to you first, if there was ever any sort of appeal, obviously couldn't be against the conviction because he pleaded guilty, but if he appealed against the length of the sentence, I said to you at the time, I said, not while my ass points to the ground. We would start a campaign that you would not believe to keep him there, at least to his non-parole period. We must name your father, by the way. He can't remain anonymous in this, can he?
No way.
Tell me his name.
Stephen Colwell.
Stephen Colwell. And Stephen Colwell, from memory, how old is he?
Now he will be 64 years old.
64 years of age, 78 at the very earliest before he can be released from jail. Do you know which prison he's in?
I do, yes.
No, I can guess, and I'll just help our listeners there. It was known as Division J, but it's now is it the Hopkins Correctional Centre?
Yes, that's correct.
Hopkins Correctional Centre in Ararat, and that's an absolute cesspit of sex offenders. That's where sex offenders are sent.
Yeah,
and he'll be in the company of
his own kind.
His own kind, yeah. There'll be a number of priests there. There'll be all sorts of people that have, as I say, if he attempts to have his sentence reduced, we will start one hell of a campaign to stop that. But the second thing is, does it concern you at all that even at the age of 78, that he be released from jail?
Honestly, I would hope that by then all of his power over me will be gone. Because at the moment, I'm still scared. I'm not going to sugarcoat that.
Tell me
I'm
a little
not Willy
bit about
Wonka.
that. Do you have nightmares? Do you have dreams? Do you have those
every
moments?
night
Every night?
have. Yeah. Wow. Night terrors. They're not just dreams, they're terrors, I relive it all. I wake up crying, shaking, sweating, or have a seizure, in my sleep. So hopefully, by the time that 14 years is up, if he hasn't passed away and done me the biggest favour ever.
Fingers crossed, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully I won't be worried at all,
Can you tell me if those dreams, nightmares, we've talked about seizures, but those dreams, nightmares, have they become more frequent or less frequent since he was sentenced?
Less frequent now.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember talking to a victim of a Catholic priest by the name of John Day, and he suffered terrible. He suffered terribly at the hands of this bastard priest. And I interviewed him not long before his death, and he said that his nightmares become more frequent as he got older, which really troubled me. I hope that's not the case with you. He, by the way, he couldn't bring himself to tell his parents, and he couldn't bring himself to tell his children.
Yep.
He worried that his loved ones might think that as he was offended against, that he would become an offender. This is one of the many crazy myths around pedophilia.
Yeah,
that victims will become will become offenders in due course. There is absolutely no. It's not even a correlation. Not even a statistical correlation. There was just no basis for it at all. It's one of these myths that's crept into discussions on these things. So, what's in the frame for you now? You're unable to work because of the seizures. You would be unable to drive a car.
That's right. Yeah.
So, are you aiming for those little things? Tick off those little things now.
Oh, absolutely, I am. Yeah, definitely.
And you're seeing. I think Kathy Squire had teed up, or Cass Squire had teed up a new neurologist for you to see.
Yep, she has. Yep.
How's that going?
Going above and beyond as always.
Yeah.
He's awesome. Yeah. I have no doubt that I'll get the help that I need through him and through anybody else that he puts me in touch with. And if Kathy's got anything to do with it, that's for sure.
And this is part of what we're talking about now, that part of that process of reporting, making public, dragging out all your father's dirty secrets allows you the time to heal. This is the other thing.
That's
that
right.
It will allow you time to heal and receive some support. I presume you're receiving support from the victim compensation, that sort of stuff. That may not be the right body, but you'll tell me.
Yeah. VOCAT were very good at getting me all of the psychologist appointments that I needed, which was fantastic. So that's all been covered by them, which has been so good and so helpful. It's finally actually helped me see that it's not my dirty little secret anymore, which is really good. Because as a victim, that's what you think. You think that it's you that's the problem.
Yeah, that's the way it is. I can tell you that is almost universally felt by victims. They feel a victim's guilt, and that's a sort of perverse term, but that's what they feel. And it's also that solitude that creates that sense that you are very much on your own.
Yeah.
And by coming out, you break those shackles. And you have the support of a wonderful husband, great son.
That's right. Yep.
Brilliant
exactly.
dog. and as hard as it has been, tell me what we've done this through the program, but just one more time. Tell me how much better it is to come forward than to suffer in silence.
1,000,000 times better. I have a life now. I'm me. I'm free. That's the biggest part. I am free. And he's not. And how good is that?
And that's a message from Beck Rogers, who's just a most remarkable person, one of the most remarkable people I've met in my life. And she's telling a story, not out of any sense of ego or any sense of look at me sort of view of the world. She's telling a story as painful as it is and as difficult as it is for her own health, so that other people who are locked up, who are in these psychological shackles right now, can break free. Yep. Thank you so much for your time, Beck.
Oh, thanks for having me.
And yeah, look, we'll stay in touch, obviously, and we really look forward to you just progressing through and really enjoying your life from now on.
Thank you. Yes.
Good on you, Beck. And that takes us out from the conditional release program. We will have some more interviews. This has been a very powerful one. We've obviously added in all of the warnings and all of the contacts that people can make if they are facing this sort of torment, or they know someone who is. So please do as Beck has done, as difficult as it might be. Come forward. Throw yourself upon the criminal justice system. The police are so much better at this than they used to be. And that was part of the problem. And I've written about that over the years, but the police are so much better now. And you will be believed and your allegations will be acted on. And thank you, Beck, once again. See you.
Bye.